organization that we work with is called Nonprofit Vote, and they what they do is, we'll talk about information collecting at the next meeting, but what they do is they use all of the data from us, from the nonprofits who engage with voters, to suss out voting patterns, to see if what we're doing actually changes voting patterns, if people are more likely to vote, if they vote a certain way, meaning by absentee versus in person. And so you can kind of get a sense for, how our interactions are actually increasing participation in the electoral process, which for me is like what keeps me going. So just, from 2018, our insights, 50% of all the voters engaged by nonprofits made less than $30,000 annually. So we are reaching low-income voters. Black voters who were engaged by nonprofits were 12% more likely to vote. And the lowest propensity voters who were engaged by us were 17% more likely to vote. So those are huge, huge leaps. And then the picture is actually a picture from our
Can you raise your thumbs if you can hear me?
I'm sorry. Oh. Okay. So the picture, however, is from our national report. So the numbers are different, but the youth had a really great increase in turnout too, 20 points higher from some of our key demographics. And so I always like to say political campaigns target likely voters who agree with them, and we are targeting unlikely voters, and we're not asking who they agree with. And so Ohio Votes is Ohio's initiative to reach these disenfranchised and underserved communities. And we are entirely 501c3 compliant. So all of our materials, there's no partisan swing. All of this is about giving voters a resource and a vehicle for asking questions and navigating the voting process. And so we're part of a larger network. And the way that we work sort of all together is that Nonprofit Vote is the national entity. It's doing the research. It's providing the large numbers of stuff that we need. A lot of our swag was courtesy of Nonprofit Vote this year. And they connect us to other states doing similar work like this. And then we connect you all with other organizations doing work like this. So other nonprofits who are also direct service organizations, volunteer-based voter advocacy groups who provide volunteers who can, go to these events and answer questions. And so it's really, we're part of a larger team. And again, it's a team that is pretty effective. And we have regional liaisons that are local to the regions that they serve. And the reason is because actually there's a unique culture of engagement for each of the different cities and really everywhere in Ohio. And, we shouldn't, frankly, the statewide should not be the ones navigating that. That's for the locals to decide and manage and, work out amongst themselves. And so what we found is this is a really great way for you all to have a larger network to work with. And we can kind of have distribution centers. So I will, I have been sending boxes and boxes and boxes of things over the last couple of weeks to these different regions so that they can help distribute posters, hand sanitizer, tablecloths, clipboards, voter forms, all of the things that you might need to put on your programming. These are the folks who are going to have that. So contact them. The information is on Ohio's Ohio Votes page. I will say I copy and pasted this slide, and the outside major metro area is actually our new intern Parker Dean, but I will update that information. So we're here today, though, to talk specifically about National Voter Registration Day, which is this year going to be an entire week of action, the 20th to the 26th. And what we've done in the past, and we plan to do this year, is have a statewide People's Power Party. Don't say it 7 times fast, but we like to work with these, organizations that we're engaging like yours to essentially put on a statewide party all week long. And so it's an effort to, not just have an opportunity to register to vote, but really hopefully amplify everyone's effort by, also having promotions and also, announcing other states, or I'm sorry, other cities' activities. And one weird benefit actually of the pandemic has been that we all, of course, have an increased reliance on technology. But the benefit of that is that we can now have virtual events that we all have access to. So there will also be virtual activities and things that people can do right from their phone or their computer, so that, you know, if we aren't yet comfortable being around folks, then in person, there will still be ways to get involved. This year's a little different. We will be incorporating census outreach into our NVRD activities. We will have events all week, which we have in the past worked with folks' schedules to do events on other days, but this year it really will be, you know, kind of pick your day and decide what works best for you. We will have virtual activities. We will have trained volunteers, and we will train them. So you don't need to come pre-trained, but we will also be training them on safety protocols, and we will be providing PPE. We have a bunch of face masks, we have hand sanitizer, we have pens that you can give away so folks can just take them with them instead of having to worry about wiping. I did actually decide, though, I think I need to figure out some sort of tool belt situation that we can provide people so they can keep all of these different things on them at one time, but we'll work on that. And we'll also work with you as circumstances change. I know this is a really, you know, all of these situations are constantly evolving. And I want to make sure that you all know that as we make plans, we understand that. And so there are opportunities for mini grants, but we will, you know, the hope is that we can work with you guys to just make sure that everyone's needs are met. So, you know, we provide, in the past, what we've done, direct service organizations who are often strapped for both time and staffing, don't necessarily have the capacity to train themselves up on all of the voting rules and voter education pieces. And so we actually will match up volunteers to activities that are happening on the ground so that you folks don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. And the folks who want to engage in the community but don't necessarily know where to stand, they get told where to stand, and they say, hey, you know, here's an affordable housing unit that needs someone to come register voters. Do you want to come register voters? So it's a really great way to connect people with activities in the community. And the other thing that we found is that it's a really, really meaningful experience for the volunteers. My favorite comments are the letters I get from volunteers who said, like, here was my experience and it was awesome. And we do get those because I think these are folks who, you know, wouldn't otherwise interact with folks from these different walks of life. And it's a great, really learning opportunity for everyone. But that being said, we do focus on cultural compatibility. So we want to send folks into communities that, you know, make sense for them to be sent to, match up demographics, you know, other aspects of their life, people who live locally, for example, things to ensure that, you know, we aren't just swooping in and, for lack of, you know, mansplaining or whatever the equivalent is for a privileged person, privilege explaining, maybe. Sorry, I'm getting dry mouth here. Okay. And I'm talking fast because I want to make sure that there's adequate time for questions, because I know you all have your own set of curiosities about this. But generally, if you are willing to do an in-person event, what we're looking for is a 1 to 3 hour slot sometime that week that, you know, makes the most sense. There's already a dinner, there's already traffic here, you know, whatever your sort of pattern of behavior at your service center is, we'll line that up with some sort of activity related to voting. And so you can work with your regional liaison to figure out what that is, or if you have an idea, you can just request volunteers to help come execute the event. And ideally, you also identify a resident or client who would be interested in learning more about this work. Peer-to-peer advocacy is the best advocacy, you know, when you're telling your friends and family, you know, what you believe and talking them through and teaching them things in a way that is natural and organic. And so the only real way to do that is to start getting folks in the community more engaged with the subject matter. And so, you know, our hope is that while you're making these plans, someone walks up to you, asks what you're doing, you know, sounds really interested, you know, jot down their name and give us their information, and we will reach out to that person and, you know, help them get additional opportunities to get engaged with this work. For volunteer and volunteer groups, basically attend a training or virtually, or watch a video and then take a brief quiz to show that you have a basic understanding of the rules. And then it's just the time of the event with, a half hour for travel and logistics factored in on both ends. There's a weird rule about folks with felony convictions after 2006 registering other voters. So the only stipulation as far as who can be a volunteer is we just need to know if that applies to you. So if you've been convicted of a felony after 2006, you can still participate, but you won't be allowed to directly register voters. So we'll need to factor that into our planning process. But other than that, anyone can do it. There's also, if you're not quite sure what to do because you're really, really limited on time and resource, and or you just want to make sure you're maximizing every opportunity. Some other ways to add on to existing program is just newsletter announcements, inserting voter engagement material into your monthly meetings or your intake process or your exit process. Increasing the involvement of a staff or the population served. So like either creating educational opportunities or doing group volunteer engagement, like maybe, you're a professional organization and you want to have a volunteer opportunity for your members. So you're going to get a group together and you're all going to volunteer on NVRD. That we've had some folks do things like that in the past. And similarly, if you are on the social service side, you already have these monthly dinners. So we're going to tack on some voter engagement activities onto those dinners. Virtual events altogether. Obviously, this is going to depend to a degree on the tech capabilities of your membership and also, your own tech equipment availability. You might be an organization that, again, people are already gathering in a large group. You might be working with a population that, definitely has cell phones and kind of knows how to use them. For example, if you're, engaging youth, you can probably bet they can figure out how to navigate a social media, live stream. Folks at the, older folks community home, maybe not so much. Maybe a streaming event is probably not going to be the most accessible thing. So, but there's different ways that you can have a virtual event. So you could have a candidate forum. You could have a voter education curriculum event. So there's a thing called the Right Question Institute, which is like a guided curriculum specifically targeting low propensity voters. So it's all questions designed to basically suss out why people are disinterested from the voting process. The Fair Courts presentation goes over how the different courts are involved in folks' lives, what it means to be a criminal municipal judge, or what it means to, be in state court versus federal court. Things that are really practical to know, but that there aren't much opportunities to learn about. This is a presentation that our partners at the Fair Courts Speakers Bureau have made. So that's one option. You could have an event like that. And also just a general what's on my ballot, help folks Google the candidates, help them look up what a state representative decides on. Maybe there's a ballot issue. And then also just, if you're already doing concerts or gatherings, or if you have an idea for maybe a more social based event, you can still, of course, always check in, add in a little announcement about checking your voter registration, or, also including a link to the voter absentee ballot request form on your RSVP form, or, get creative, but again, just taking advantages of those points of contact. And then things we can provide staffing, trainings, curriculums, publicity materials, and voter literature. There's also remote peer-to-peer outreach. So if you have, a group of, again, young people is probably the first that comes to mind. They're all really tech literate. They all have phones and they all have large contacts lists. Maybe, a remote peer-to-peer outreach event makes sense. So they can do a text banking party where you can text your contacts in your phone, just reminders how to vote, and you can put it in your own words. And use your own, network of folks, not just calling random people. You can do a letter or postcard writing party, and also just general social media engagement. Our partners at Unitarian Universalist Justice Ohio and Novak we've got some wonderful young interns that are helping us develop out our social media resources and images and all that stuff. And to the degree we can, we'll try to kind of give you the stock photo statewide version of some important voting announcements that you can really just like kind of copy paste. But we can also, if there's something that you're really needing that you're not getting, let us know that too. And just so this is our first meeting. There's another one on September 10th. The goal here is to just give you all the information and then, take it back to your folks, talk about what makes sense for you, and then come September 10th with sort of a plan in mind. So some of the things that you should consider prior to that, think about what you need. Again, I mentioned that we can help with curriculums for different kinds of events. We can provide staffing assistance, supplies, direct materials, and we do have mini grants. So if you wanted to put on an event with food, or you just need a little bit of extra cash for something at the event, you can apply for a mini grant. I'll definitely throw that link. Joan, if you have it available, you can throw it in the chat, but otherwise we'll include it in the follow-up email. And then also consider your own audience and the folks that you're actually engaging, and think about why they might not be engaging right now. So some of, when I first actually got hired at Ohio, one of the first things I did was make this chart with sticky notes. And I tried to think of all of the different reasons people don't engage. And probably some of these more than others resonate with you and your populations. And so if you can identify those, you can then link those folks up to the opportunities that really make the most sense for the folks and what they're concerned about. So which of these reasons sound familiar to you? I never registered to vote. They won't let me vote, or I have been turned away in the past. I don't even know who's running or what's on the ballot. I moved, or I don't have a permanent address. I don't have a ride. I don't have an ID. This system doesn't represent me, so who cares? I don't know where or when or how to vote, or I don't have time, or I don't have a babysitter, or I have to work. All of those things are reasons that people disengage from the process. And what you can do is kind of try to address those concerns with the type of programming you choose. So whether it's registration opportunities, whether it's accessible voting material, whether it's, linking folks up with rides resources, there are a lot of different things that you can do, but, NVRD programming can sort of be built around what the most immediate needs are. What kind of space do you have? What kind of interaction is your staff willing and or able to participate in? Are you having in-person events? Are you not? Are the staff that's actually willing to, go out of their way to make sure they're at the building at that time, willing to go unlock the door? What's the most important to your population? And how does voting fit into your own larger mission? If you're a housing organization, you can make it about housing issues. If you are a food insecurity issues, you can make it about, food programs and, farm subsidies, really. You could go really far with that. But, you could make the issue most relevant to your own mission, sort of the prominent feature of your event. And then just make sure you're engaging everyone possible. Are you using us enough? Are you making sure that you are, staffing this sufficiently and really thinking through the, maximizing programming? Who within your organization might be interested in this work, or do you need on your team? Who's in your personal network? And then recruit hosts, recruit volunteers. And then if you are a business, if you know a business and they are just looking to participate, there's always some way to weave in the private businesses to your event. So just have them reach out to us, and depending on who they are and what kind of business they have, we can see what makes the most sense. But we've had interesting things from like a band who wanted to put on a free show, so they we had them at one of our events. And so we can just, kind of match up folks based on that. but obviously only if people offer. And then I just wanted to, kind of go over the important dates for everyone's sake. I'm checking the time. Okay, we're doing pretty good. So this week is the week of action, September 20th through 26th. October 5th is the deadline to register. October 6th, early vote starts. November 3rd is election day. So in your timelines and your planning, keep this timeline in mind, especially if you don't plan to actually drop off the forms to the Board of Elections. Buffer in some time before October 5th to turn in your forms to make sure that you don't have any deadline issues. I would honestly just recommend driving them there and dropping them off. I think it's just, it's getting there that day and you don't have to worry about it. And then of course start advertising early voting as soon as that's available. What's showing up on the ballot this year? All of the US representatives, president, all of the state representatives, some state senators, 2 Ohio Supreme Court justices, local races, lots of local races, judges, prosecutors, ballot issues, citywide offices, countywide offices, and then just honestly miscellaneous other officials that come in all shapes and sizes. And then I think a lot of people have a little confusion about the mail-in voting timeline. So just to give you guys a little bit of context for that, technically you can apply up until October 31st, but there is just no logistical way that your absentee ballot request would actually get there in time for you to return your ballot on time. So we are just telling people the sooner the better. That gives the mail system more time. You don't have to worry about waiting too long. So that is one of those where like the deadline is here, but also don't pay attention to the deadline because the real logical deadline is mid-October. Regardless of when you send your request, you won't actually get your ballot until mid-October. They'll mail them out starting October 6th. So some people, mail their requests, they've seen it's been accepted, and then they're just waiting for their ballot. The ballot's not even finalized until late September, sometimes early October. So we couldn't give them to you earlier if we wanted to. They must be postmarked by Monday, November 2nd, or dropped off directly to the Board of Elections or a drop box by November 3rd. This slide, I guess, has been slightly updated. There will be at least one drop box in every county. Right now, there will be only one drop box at every county, subject to change, but we will, unless I tell you otherwise, that's the end of the story. There's just one per. So that is all I had, and then I just wanted to reserve the rest of the time for questions and discussion and, hear from you guys. So Joan, I don't know the best way to moderate, but.
Okay, you can put your questions in the chat box, which is probably the easiest way of doing it. And then if you want to speak, you can raise your hand, as long as we all don't speak at once, because there are 55 of us. So questions, let's go for the chat box first. And if they're complicated, let's try voice. Okay. What questions do you have? We did put some information already in the chat for you to check out, like a wonderful guide on how to COVID-proof your event, which I urge you all to get a hold of. Have one about, okay, Steve, go ahead.
Hey all, thanks so much, Maria, for this, and Joan for moderating. Y'all are doing great work. I've come across a question about absentee ballot postage that I'm waiting on 2 voicemail returns from the Secretary of State's office about, but I've heard that it's possible in some, that you could end up with a ballot that if you have a long ballot because of like some issues or something locally, that it could potentially require more than 1 stamp to mail. And so I'm curious, like if this happens, or like how the necessary amount of postage is indicated by the Secretary of State's office, as we're looking to do some of this like other video work and educate our students. I want to make sure that I'm giving people correct information and have yet to get a straight answer from the Secretary.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give you a really unsatisfactory answer,
Thanks.
but it's the real one. Yeah, so what you've heard is true. Some ballots will require more than one piece of postage. It should be explicitly stated that that is what's needed within the instructions of the ballot. The other thing to note is that the current policy, and I say policy, not law or anything like that, of the U.S. Postal Service is to still send mail to the Board of Elections even with insufficient postage. So they will return that mail to the Board of Elections regardless of whether it has the sufficient postage. That being said, you know, that could change tomorrow. So certainly don't rely on that. But yeah, the answer is it should be indicated explicitly. And if it's not, and you hear about that, please let us know because that's an election protection.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for and I realize it's not an NVRD thing, but I figured the smart people were in the room, so I would ask it. But yeah, just the fact that it will be indicated on the absentee ballot itself is what I was looking for, so that people should know when they get it that it will say explicitly how much postage it needs. Cool. Thank you.
We also have a question about a recommendation for a template of a virtual voter registration event.
Yeah, I feel like we might already have that, but if we don't, we will definitely provide one. So I'm thinking what you mean is just sort of the how-to guide to put on your average voter registration activity on National Voter Registration is what I'm thinking. Correct me if that's not what you meant, but yeah, no, we
Yeah,
can.
Lindsay.
Sure.
And of course, we are doing trainings for phone banking and text banking, which are the par excellence voter registration events that are virtual for folk, where we call them call low propensity and unregistered folk and guide them through the process. So that's something we are doing regularly.
And really, you know, lean on your, and I, I have some regional liaisons on this call, so I'm like, hey guys, but really lean on your regional liaisons. They have done this before and know who to ask if they don't know. So, you know, a 5-minute conversation with them can save you, you know, 3 hours of planning. So definitely, you know, we've got, who do we have? Toledo, we have Columbus. Yeah, we have Dayton, Cincinnati, Akron. Okay, so gang's all here. So, you know, work with those folks and let them help you.
And then are we able to account or count registrations happening all through the week is a question.
To count?
Yeah, count them, yes. Yeah, it's not like you have to do it just one day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah. This, and honestly, like, you know, the more the better. If you decide this is something you want to offer once a week, you know, till forever, great. We will continue to work with you on doing that. So that's, you know, what we're here to help you do. And we have found in the past that people get intimidated by this and then they do it once, realize it wasn't that scary, and then want to do it again. Which is great. So, you know, you might find like, wow, that actually wasn't that much work. Let's do it next week, which would be great.
Kathleen has one. If we do an event, what items can we provide that won't cross the line of paying for voting or registration?
Great question. So, the law that people often hear about and are, I guess, intimidated by is that you cannot exchange, you know, something as small as a stamp or a piece of pizza in exchange for a voter registration or inducing a vote. That is true. However, having an event with those things is entirely and completely legal. So it's the difference between saying, if you register to vote, you get a piece of pizza, and hey, we're having a voter registration event. Also, we have pizza. You know, and you don't card the people taking pizza, right? If they don't want to register to vote or if they don't want to engage with you, you still have to give them pizza. But so that's, you know, that's the difference, is your event can have a lot of things. You just can't be giving things only in exchange for that registration or absentee ballot or other, you know, voting act.
Okay. And I'm telling everyone, somebody's telling everyone to put at least 2 stamps on the ballots. Another is, how can you check whether your application for an absentee ballot has been approved and when? Well, they're starting that after Labor Day everywhere, but right now in some counties. And go to
You can check,
ohvotes.org and you can check immediately. We have a button there.
on your county website, though, you can check if your application has been received by your county board, though,
Right.
But,
and what the
but
process.
some are not. We have
Yeah,
been told that only some counties are doing that. Other counties are not starting to do that
Until after.
the day.
Yeah.
So, you know, I assume what that means is they just aren't updating the website, right? Like they're still processing everything normally. They're just not necessarily also giving you the tracking information. Someone asked for the regional liaisons. Joan or someone,
Yes.
could you throw in the chat the link to the Ohio page that has them all listed out?
Sure, and I will include that in the letter that we send out with these links, is the links to all of the regional liaisons, because there's tons of questions about that one. And also joining the phone bank and text bank, I'll send you the Novak information so you can sign up for those, and it's also on our calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let me know here. Oh, Elizabeth is just asking Columbus people to contact her. Okay, and Maria is saying, yes, of course, all ballots are different depending on what's on the ballot, so better see what the ballot actually says about postage, whether 1 or 2. Okay. Other questions?
Oh, and I'm just rereading through the questions. And the question about the app or template for voter registration events.
Okay.
Yeah, so ohvotes.org is our online tool that we use, and it links, to the Secretary of State site, but between me and all of the people on this call, I don't find that to be the most user-friendly site, and so this provides a little bit of more direct links for voters. So there's a button to the request absentee form. There is a track your absentee ballot button. There is a check your registration. There is, request an absentee ballot. It kind of has the shortcuts. So, and then also if people search through our website, we are just getting ready, like literally today, to change out the link that we'll have a new button that'll allow folks to really get walked through the registration process, and also requests that we mail them either a voter registration form or an absentee ballot request form. So that's something that we will have imminently. But ohvotes.org is what's on all of our posters, and it's easy to remember, and it also is simple, so it loads quickly on your cell phone or like iPad. So if you wanted to search a bunch, you can do it hopefully, and not be sitting there waiting for it to load the whole time. So yeah, I definitely recommend that.
Okay, other questions, let's see here. I will be, yes, if you did not register for this event, put your email in the chat so I can send you the information, and I will scour the chat for that if I can find you. We have several people volunteering to go wherever a need is, people who can travel through the state. And is there a metro area that is especially short-handed? I suppose you're asking about in-person events. Is that right, Tiffany? Okay. And Tiffany says yes. Okay, so we have a couple of folk willing to travel to help volunteer. We have note that Cuyahoga County vote by mail apps can be traced with the Track My Ballot tool on their website. Just make sure you enter the required information.
Elia, thank you for joining us. I believe you're actually with the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections. I'm not going to begin to guess your title, but so yeah, we do actually have a representative from a board who might know some additional information about the county rules.
That's great. So what's the magnitude of the mini grant?
So there are options. So, oh gosh, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's $250 if your event is 30 people or over, $400 if it's 40, and then $500 if it's 50 or more. I think is the rough range, but we sent the link earlier, so it should say that. That's the first question in the application, is what amount you're applying for, and then if it's over that, still apply. It might be a situation where you can give some of the money, depending on what it's for, of course, but you just would have to indicate how much you're requesting in the actual sort of description of your request.
Okay. Elia, did you want to add something? Because you noted that you've got Spanish as well. Did you want to say something, unmute and say?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just wanted to let volunteers know in the Cuyahoga County that we have the Spanish version of everything on our website, so Latino members can be better informed. And also there is a direct line which comes to me. It's 216-443-3242. So if you encounter any problem or you need assistance helping Latino voters, you can reach out to me in Cuyahoga County Board of Elections.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Deb asked for the link. I think you put it up here. I'll copy it again.
Yeah. We're checking for all these various links. Other questions? And I will be sending out a note with all the various links that we have, plus the PDF of the slides, plus the various links we've talked about, like the COVID proofing guide, etc. Okay, and the mini grant. Yes, we have the mini grant link in there a couple of times now.
Also, just heading back to the question about heading to places that do need help, like specific regions that need help. If you are interested in that, or you really want to go to other regions, let your regional liaison or me or Maria or somebody know, so we can note that, so that if a group reaches out, they need specific help in an area, it's most likely going to be Columbus or Cleveland, since they have the most events. They need extra people, so we can keep that in mind and let you know where those areas may be.
Yeah, good point, Liam. Thank you. Someone asked, if you're a statewide organization, can you submit more than one application? So the short answer is yes, but I would also just, say that we're pulling from a limited pot of money, and we want to support as many people and as many groups as possible. So, and we are going to target the most underserved voters, which means, if you are engaging in activity that is 10% our target audience, that's probably going to be less likely to receive support from us than something that is going to be predominantly folks who are in, the housing insecure community, right? So there are a lot of variables, but there's absolutely nothing barring you from requesting more than once. And I also the thing too is we have a lot of stuff. So if you're requesting money for stuff, first check if we actually just have the thing that you need, because we have posters, we have educational cards, we have, signage. So we have a lot of the things that you might need to put on your event. So, if you request money for things that we also have, I'm more likely to just reach out and say, actually just contact your regional liaison, because we have that already. So I would check with them before applying for stuff, especially when it comes to printed materials.
And we had a question about resources to help convince people that their vote is important. So I put in the chat the fact that we have community conversations that we are offering. And the whole point of the community conversations is to help people realize that. And then the Right Question Institute has an absolutely excellent tool for helping people see how important every vote is in what areas.
Yeah, and the thing I would say, you know, where you fit in and where we fit into the equation is we can provide, you know, if you can get people to the event, we can provide the conversation and the curriculum and all of the things that, you know, you kind of need to guide that discussion. What we can't really do for you is get your community like to come, right? So if you have, you know, if there's free dinner, at least 30 people are going to show up. Like, great, we can, you know, work with you to put on a dinner, right? But it's kind of up to you to think through what is going to be appealing to the folks that you work with, and then, you know, we come in with helping you execute that. So that's why I'm kind of, you know, we're trying to give you general guidelines on what to think about and what to consider as you're doing this. But that's, you know, that's sort of up to you to know your community. And so that fits into how we get people to care about voting. So, like, you know, that is messaging, and we can work on that with you. Again, like, just getting their attention is the hard part half of the time.
And I have a question about how do people get joined up with the phone and text banking training and parties. And I'm going to put a link into the chat so that you can sign up for the Novak registration team, which is one of the ways we're sending out information on that, as well as the calendar has just general information for the trainings and the phone bank and text bank parties. And yes, we're partnering with a lot of people on this.
Yeah, and, you know, just to sort of remind you guys why this program looks the way that it does, it's because we work with everybody. We work with all the other C3s. We work with all of the social service agencies. You know, a lot of people we found were having discussions in silos and doing work in silos, and sometimes doing the same work twice. So, you know, the reason that our network is so broad is because we really try to hone in on what everyone can bring to the table, and then, you know, share everything on the table.
Okay. Let's see. And phone banks and text banks, by the way, are taking place now. Okay, any other questions?
All right. I think we did pretty well on time. I know I talked fast. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And I had particularly like low breath today or something.
Well, and we had a lot of great questions, and I know that people will think of questions, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't call us at 3 o'clock in the morning, okay? But if you want, but you can email us. I will put my email in here simply because I have an easy one, and I could then share it out to the different people that might need it. But I will also be emailing you with information and putting a letter together for everyone that registered.
That's not to say we won't respond to your email at 3 a.m. because we very well might. It's happened before.
But we won't call you at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good then. Are there any, it looks like we've covered what people had now. Are there any other final words from Liam, from Maria?
No, I would just say, you know, communicate with us. You know, if you need help, if you have a question, contact your regional liaison. And I'm telling you, these folks are all wicked smart and very hardworking. So you'll be in good hands with them. And yeah, I mean, share ideas with each other too. If you guys had a really good event in previous years, I would love to like see in the chat, or you know, we can unmute you and you can tell us about it. But you know, I'm sure there are some folks who are doing this for the first time and looking for some good ideas. So if you have one to share, you know, we did pretty well on time. So if you have to dip out, we're not going to be offended. But if you guys want to, you know, take advantage of this and share ideas, that's great too.
And I should note that at the registration team meetings on Novak, we're sharing some really great ideas with every meeting.
Yeah, I
So-
just say reach out if you need anything. We're here to help you in the regions, at the state level. If I can do anything, I'm also the Toledo person, so if you're in Toledo, let me know. Think about the fact that it's COVID and things that may have worked in the past may not work this year. So keeping that in mind when you're coming up with plans. But yeah, just reach out if you need anything. You know, you have a cool thing you want to share with everybody else, you know, that you don't want to wait till the next meeting. We're happy to share that out. So yeah, we're here if you need us.
Excellent. Then I'm going to thank everybody because this happens to be my Zoom room. So I'm taking that liberty of thanking everybody for being here, and absolutely wonderful that you all are involved in this. Thank you.